Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 8 and Third Reich Advance. We're going to get continuing after the somewhat tedious episode of reorganization. I am shifting at least imports away from the US to the Soviet Union. We have fairly good relations with them currently, and there's no need to transport things through the sea lanes. Supplies, raw materials, whatever. No. No. Okay, let's see, the 8th Panzer Division here. We'll put it in the production queue. I'll put it up top, which will get it through quickly. I'm also starting to send out my as you can see, I'm sending a bunch of coastal submarines to bases in the Mediterranean and a few submarines to Italian bases, hoping to get Japan as a faction member soon. And you can also see here we're sending out the Graf Spee to rebase in prep for possible war. Ooh, naval HQs have advanced. That's good. We're gonna let it roll. We ready to get this one yet? No, not yet. Maybe some of the Air Force, but definitely some of the later naval HQs, you have to either control certain, or well, certain territories have to be in the Axis. Yes, we'll buy crude from Romania. Not yet on the 15th, okay. Couple of days. Superior firepower, yes, been waiting for that one. Rolling artillery barrages, that's good. Okay, this allows us to just the 25th in there. Yeah. Good. Wait a minute, did I attach that to the wrong place? Yes, I did. No, it's not letting me. Because it's that, I think. Oh, darn it. Okay, I think we can do this. Hit R. And I want to send the motorcycles over to there. Yeah, that's what I want to do. There we go. That worked out. Particularly good division. Oh, I don't know. Give him a look. Okay, now pilot training has advanced. That's good. We'll shift that up to here. Sending these guys down here, ready to be reinforcements to defend the west wall where attacks develop. Once we're at war. Okay. Let's see if we can buy 40 rare material. Yeah, they may be willing to sell that to me. Okay, and we will cancel that from America. Okay, broadcasting programs. Let's see the plans. Mission to Romania. Another event contributed by George 1941. Hitler decided to send the German military mission to Romania, which will serve as a teaching force to protect the Romanian oil fields by improving, of course, the Romanian army. We have a choice of whether to do this or not. Cost us some money, supplies, a little bit of manpower. They will get an improvement event for basically bonus to a bunch of techs that I hope they will be researching on their own, or not to do this. We're going to do this. We want the Romanian army to be as effective as possible. Small arms advance. We'll go with improved security units because we'll need to occupy lots of territories coming up in the future. And now, let's see. Huge news and politics, heroic tales, or huge entertainment shows. Let's take a look at those. Okay. I don't think we're going to need a major reduction in consumer goods during wartime. I think already mostly we're not going to need to produce any once we get the war going, but for consumer needs, but we'll have the option in the future. Tails. Organizational regain rate plus 1%. National unity, territorial pride. That would be useful. Or we can go huge with ruling party support. Well, we want ruling party support because what are we currently? Somewhere in here. We're at high popularity. We would like very high, of course. So organizational regain rate of 1% is nice. The others are nice, but we would get national unity as well here, so that's what I think we're going to do. Oh no, I need to go here. So we're going to go huge news politics. Okay, Bohemian and Maharen is, to me, Bohemia and Moravia, but I understand that's the German. This magazine was published by SS Gruppenführer Karl Hermann Frank, that odious guy. This, click on him, show you his picture. Don't forget these evil people. He was executed after the war for what he did. So more just an interesting event that they are that the SS is taking the time to publish a magazine focused on this region. I find things like that fascinating. Okay, new industrial zone. That's basically the old heavy industry, so it will produce our manpower and raw materials, because obviously the factories are using it, but we're using IC efficiency and supply production, which is very nice. We could keep that going. But what I think we're going to do is come over here. Do that. And the other one here is recon unit communications. Keep clicking at the wrong space there. We'll do recon unit coordination. No, I'm not buying fuel from any of you people. Okay, the Swiss want some fighter aircraft, and we have the option of selling it to them. We'll gain some money, lose some supplies. They'll get a squadron or so of Messerschmitt. This is like the earlier event. Or we don't sell it to them, but they will get an event that the French will sell them, and they will get relations improved with the French. Neither one of these is going to drive them into either Allies or the Axis camp, but closer to one and the other, so we're going to do it. Keep them our friends, or as much friends as we can. I talked to one Swiss player long ago about this, and he agreed that generally speaking, although there was a lot of sympathy within Switzerland for the Axis powers, either the Italians or the Germans, depending on your national speaking unit, there was no political influence that was going to get Switzerland into the Axis. So no matter how hard you try with any of these events, you won't get Switzerland into the Axis. But you can make them more your friend. You can lay the groundwork for when you do invade, if that's your plan, to either disrupt their national unity eventually during or just before the invasion, as well as get some extra Swiss volunteers later on for your armed forces. So there's reasons to do it, more than just historically based. Yes, we'll go with the air bases. Okay, GURBS divisions. Do you want to form the GURBS divisions? Yes, we do. Cute little picture. Again, I believe this is from... that is already on the map, though. We don't lose anything. I think this is from Alexei's mods. Units of the Third Reich. Well, let's use this to... Many more units to scroll down than it was early on. Okay, well, the weak groups divisions. Gebergs, I should say. Gebergs division, sorry. Light infantry, Gebergs. Wrangel, the 5th. Now, Schroner is going to get back to no leader. Geberg Jaeger divisions. Okay, Huff Duff. Radio or high frequency direction finding. That's what I believe that stands for. It's set up to listen for enemy radio and then get the direction and potentially strength to help locate it. I'm going to leave the mountain units down where they were. Okay, April is my start date here. Hopefully that'll allow still a June invasion of France. But start date in April to go into Poland. So we're getting close. We'll increase our encoding machine. Sorry, just thinking about other things as I'm looking through all this. No fuel, no fuel. Okay, let's see. We can buy something from the Soviet Union. Let's look here. We're getting 20, 45 metal. That's really steel, but yeah, okay. Diplomacy. Let's buy some Soviet steel instead. Okay, I'll just quickly go over here and building up a reserve, but it's not big enough. I want to get that steel effect from Sweden. No, we still need it. Okay. Earlier we had the event talking about the new cartridge, the shorter one, and developing an assault rifle for it, basically. The German army also was looking forward towards a semi-auto rifle. By this time, and I don't know the exact date, you had John Guerin, who was a Canadian, but I think living in America at the time, definitely sold the gun to the Americans. The M1 Garand, named after him. Garand. but it's Garand. There's a G-A-R-A-N-D, not grand like as in 1,000, or something big. So, as well as gentleman by the name of Carbine Williams, who developed the M1 carbine, was somewhat before this being developed. And you also had the Rising rifle, that was another semi-automatic rifle in the US. I don't know how much, and those weren't secret projects. Those were fairly well known. I'm a little surprised that we don't have good evidence, and I'd love to see if we do have any evidence of Germany pre-war getting their hands on either of the M1 carbine or the M1 Garand, somehow buying it. But some of those were, shall we say, for military production only, meaning they weren't producing and selling any to civilians. So it's not like the Germans didn't know about them. I don't know if they could have bought any at that time, meaning they were just sole contractor for the U.S. The Soviet, the SVT-40, obviously the number 40 is in the name. Don't know exactly the year of introduction. They were in moderately widespread use, nothing like universal use, or even, I don't even think 10% use, but it was a fairly finicky semi-auto rifle that the Soviets never got anywhere near replacing the Mosin Nagant bolt-action rifle. That would have to come later with the SKS carbine and the AK-47 for the Soviets to finally get production numbers up there. But I don't know when the Germans became aware of the SVT-40. Earlier, I think it was in, 1922 is coming to mind. Mexico developed and was sort of the first production semi-auto rifles out there for military use, and it sucked pretty badly. It was very finicky. Meaning in pristine rifle range conditions, it would work okay, from what I understand. I never fired one or anything, but they're incredibly rare nowadays. But it worked. And there were a few others. I believe there was a Madsen, people who made the Danish Madsen. They were doing one, but it was basically based off the Madsen machine gun, which was a overly complicated and overly bulky mechanism. So it wasn't really good. France, I believe, had a semi-auto rifle. I'm forgetting the designation of it right offhand now, but it wasn't, if I'm anywhere near widespread use. The French were the last major power to adopt a new model bolt-action rifle in this time period, the MAS 36, 1936 being the year of adoption, the year that this starts, and more or less for front-line French infantry divisions, they, and I'm saying new as in the K98K, the Karabiner 98 Kurz for short, that's German for short, was basically just a slightly modified version of the Gewehr 98 rifle, Gewehr being rifle, as opposed to carbine. It's sort of like the earlier horse carbines, that the K version. But so yeah, that's a new gun over the World War I gun, and the British tweaked the Venerable Enfield a little bit from World War I to World War II. So there was definitely new models, but of basically the same mechanisms, basically the same gun. France in 36 went to a whole new bolt-action gun over the earlier Lebel tubular magazine rifle that they had. And so they got a sort of state-of-the-art bolt-action military rifle, And we've talked a bit on the message boards about the out-of-dateness of the French army, and when the US and other people are looking at going to semi-autos or just maintaining very high, already known high quality bolt actions, they do the conservative thing, and instead of trying to develop a semi-auto, they develop a bolt action rifle at this time. So they're doing that. The Heereswaffenamt, you'll see Waffenamt stamped on many weapons. Basically, that's the armament office, armament headquarters, armament office, however you want to say it. And Heeres being the army as opposed to the Air Force or the Navies. Stamped on many weapons. But they put out a issued specifications for a semi-auto rifle. No holes for tapping gas in the loading mechanisms. Were to be bored in the barrel. So can't really see. These are the, well, there'll be future events where they got into it. Two companies decided, and it's going to be called the Gewehr 41. Two companies decided to attempt to make a model. Mauser and Walther were the two companies, and we will have more events covering this in more detail, and I can talk about them. So we can support the developments. We can do a large support of developments. If you notice, throwing more resources at it gets you a little more time on small arms, but not much. No need. The best, probably most economical solution is the first one, if you want to do that. Now, we've just recently got small arms, but if we were to add it now, you can see that we got a little bit of bonus there. That's all. Okay, Vienna Spring Fair. This obviously happened in 1940, March, after the war had started. They didn't, Berlin didn't put the International Auto Show on that they normally did. So Vienna, wanting to shine as a major German city, decided to do this Vienna Spring Fair, which was a technology show, but very heavily focusing on autos. It wasn't strictly an auto show, though. It was other things. So get a little bit of development, sort of a replacement, but it wasn't, to my knowledge, very much of an international show because of the war. Okay, I'm going to put some of those units on the map. Okay, we have some strategic bombers. What could put with the strategic bombers? That of course only makes sense. Where are they? There they are. And our... do we have a KG2 there? There we go. But that's... both light bombers, so we'll just put those. So do we have any KG? Well, no. What we're going to do is cancel that. No, I'm going to click there. Not what I did, but it's what I meant to do. Oh, von October, I'll be alright for that. Now, when are we gonna get? Do we have any? No. We're gonna get some twin engine fighters. Oh, quite a ways away. Just have to win the air battle. And another technology affecting many units. Let's see, what is it? Artillery flexibility, that's good. 42. It's pushing a little harder than I want to. Increase mobile unit training. No fuel. No fuel. Okay, I think we're going to end the episode here. I think we're going to do 1 minute. Love to hear from you. Thanks so much. Continuing with preparations for the start of the war. Got a few aircraft operating. Got some ships starting to patrol the Baltic. Let's see here now. Escort ship anti-air improvements. That's great. Okay, we peaked out at that for our current tech balance. Let's improve light armor designs. We've still got a lot of light armor units. Okay, grand battle plan has advanced. That's another nice improved capability there. We'll switch it over to the Sherplunk. Having each of these little reckless assault, masterful blitz kind of things really helps out when you are in action. Okay, so Yunnan. That's the southern one down here. Japan has conquered. Don't know why the don't know if they're just too early on, but via the clock as to why the Nanjing, China event hasn't fired. We do want to get them into the Axis soon. Japan, that is. Let's see, am I influencing them? I think I am. Yes, but so is everybody else. Right, and the USA, money for fuel, no fuel. Deficit there with supplies, but we're producing more than enough, so not hugely more. Okay. Decline. Refit, what was that, the 10th Panzer Division? Yes, make sure we don't hit Danzig Reward just yet. Again, sort of more mid-war photo. I mean, it's a nice photo, and it very likely is the 10th Panzer Division. But that, probably a 42-43 photo. We will stick them in the production queue. Pop it to the top. It'll delay a few items, obviously, but we're doing all right. Over here. Just increase this an ever so slight amount. Keep it green. So I like when they change colors because my eyes will, if I'm not even focusing on it, will see red appear up there and react to it. Okay, Blitzkrieg has advanced as well. No, we're not importing from overseas. We're going to have to cancel a bunch of stuff. Now, how are we with... Well, does Japan want to buy? No, they're in the deficit money. So they don't want to buy things. Okay. Surplus energy, obviously. Metal, not so much. Rare materials, not so much. Lots of that. Now they want to buy some supplies. You got plenty of money? Oh yeah. There we go. Okay, let's cancel a supply sale to the US here. There are two. Eventually we will get embargoed and then obviously go to war with the US, but I'm used to being able to always buy enough rare material and steel. Well, not used to buying steel, but rare material from the Soviets, but that's been nerfed down too, apparently. So this is going to become a bit of a headache, maybe a bit more than I'm used to. Which will mean, obviously, building substitution factories. We have a bunch of new building events for those coming up in the next release of TRE. Lad Virgil, or just Lad as I normally call him here on the forum, has been working with that very nicely. Okay. Armor plating. Useful, but not a focus I want to do now. I'm more focused on expanding their ranges. Than wanting to armor them up. Iran. No, we're not gonna transport in the fuel, even if it wasn't fuel. We're gonna lose a lot of these rare material imports, and so I'm not looking forward to that. And down here we're gonna lose the oil, though those are mostly small. All those rare materials. We've got to ship those seas and all those. All that's going to have to be stopped. That's going to put a serious dent in our capabilities. I'm seeing that more and more. So, okay, armored HQs have advanced. That is good. And we're going to switch that over to mountain. I like the rough terrain HQs as well. So we want to prepare that up. Okay. I'm just coming more and more to realize right now, just because I was looking at the Soviet numbers, because I just thought I'd be able to switch over to the Soviets for all of my rare material needs, and I'm not going to be able to do all of that. Looking for concentrations of rare materials to where to build the improvements. So far Berlin really does look like a winning spot there with 8, and with various technologies it's bumped up to 14. So let's see the cost of rares extraction. And what's that going to cost? 5 ICs until May. Time isn't too long. Sort of fortunate, because as we start getting hit by the effects, although of course one thing that will mitigate this is taking places like Amsterdam and Belgium, Brussels particularly, because they've been importing their rare materials from the Congo and Indonesia and stockpiling it there for me. This may not be as serious as I'm thinking at this moment. Notice I'm not just spamming the production lines with any rare material location I can and dumping one there in sort of a panicked reaction, because I'm not panicking, but I am trying to be forward looking on this. Okay, we'll give this one a 5. So we will pop that up to the top as well. That's just 2, so that's 10 ICs. That's a division that's not being built for a few months. Poland, I don't know how much we will gain there. I mean, obviously we'll gain some, both in the idea of whatever they produce. Now, of course, we'll also gain factories, which will need that too. Okay, which medium armor doesn't make sense. Good. That's improved. Extra wide tracks. Yes, we want to do that. You look at like a Panzer I or Panzer II's tracks versus some of the later Panzer IV's, or like a T-34 particularly. They start getting wider. This I wouldn't call extra wide. This is the Panzer III. Or maybe I should say more, maybe the Tiger. The Tiger, interesting little fact. Tiger had 2 track widths. And you can see here, this was sort of one of the styles of having, I think it's the back set of sprockets that drives it. I'm not absolutely sure. I just think driving in the transmission up forward. But it's either one or both of these wheels that make the track go round, because they're with the metal sprockets in it, and gives it the propulsion. These are just sort of these little wheels here just sort of keep the track flowing in the right direction. Here, this is as you know, gives the tank somewhat of the smooth ride and weight distribution. Is these wheels down here? They just sort of roll on the track, as it were. So it's not, whether you look at this is where the tank is rolling, or you look at here, sort of rolling on that track. And this is sort of the one sort of style of these little wheels. The Germans went with a also a sort of complicated interlocking wheels that you'll see like on the Tiger, the larger wheels and sort of overlapping wheels for weight distribution. I don't understand all of why they did it, but they did. And the Tiger was a rather wide tank to fit in all its armor, the 88mm gun, the ammunition storage, the large engine, all of that stuff, all had to get larger. And they realized that you needed, with all the extra weight, generally speaking, but also experience in Russia and places, that you needed greater track area on the ground for weight distribution, so that at any one point there's less weight that it's being distributed on. So they wanted to get it wider. Well, that's too wide to be put on a train and run across most of Germany, because narrow spots like at bridges or tunnels or whatever, it's too wide. So they had a for all the Tiger tanks, and this is, you know, people don't necessarily realize all the extra stuff that particularly Germany did during the war that was not the best for efficiency in production, shall we say. Is that every Tiger, well, I don't know if every Tiger tank, but a bunch of Tiger tanks needed 2 track widths, 2 sets of tracks. One was sort of the standard running, and they also built extra wide, and I can maybe post somewhere photos of extra wide track types that actually stuck out wider than normal. And they did that for these earlier tank models. They were asymmetrical tracks. These are like symmetrical, asymmetrical just on the outer side. They stick out further. But the standard sort of tank track for the Tiger, when you mount it on, was just a little too wide. So they made a narrower track type that you actually like took off the outer 3 or 4 sort of sets of wheels for. I'm not explaining that well probably in here, but and then you put on the narrower track just to drive because they're so heavy, they had to propel themselves, to drive themselves up onto the flatbed rail cars and obviously sit on the flatbed rail cars and then drive themselves off at the other location. Once they did that, they had to switch the tracks to the normal running tracks. So every time they got moved by train, basically, it may not be entirely universally true, but generally speaking, every time they moved by train, they needed to be retracked to get on and to get off the train. So I guess you could have a set of tracks, but where are you going to store them to move them to where or to when you know that you're going to need to by rail move tanks with bombings and everything else. So it's sort of like you got to build two sets of tracks for every tank and keep them somewhere handy, because you never know when you're going to need to get on the rails with them. So you don't want to leave something expensive like the Tiger just because you didn't have the tracks. So that's some of the extra stuff built into the German Tiger program and tanks is what, generally speaking, for the Germans that they were doing. So extra wide tracks for weight distribution is important. Okay, yes, we need this. Oh, that's right. Already made it here. Board the ships. Board the ships. I sent a Corps HQ and a few divisions that are going to East Prussia. And I think that is it, so we base over to here. We need to get them there before the war starts. We're looking at maybe not necessarily April 1, but early April for starting this. Okay, aero engines have advanced. And infantry support weapons has advanced. Yeah, engineers are going to be important, so we'll research that. Building a couple of mines isn't going to solve my problems. Though, of course, I could turn all my production over to that and, like I say, sort of panic and do it now, or if conditions get worse. I really like the mine concept. I just am at the moment thinking it can be better balanced with some of the stuff. And the rare materials was a real concern for Germany. It most assuredly was, which means it should be a concern for me. But I don't know if it should be a concern for the Soviets, in the sense of that they should always be able to sell us until we go to war with them, a fair amount of that stuff. I don't even care if it's mostly in the east, Far East, that I don't go and conquer, but okay, we're building up a little bit of reservist spies, but that's okay. And they're diplomats, okay. Just slowly creeping up. Okay, civil defense. Home front focus, which is potentially nice. But okay, manpower, that's the biggest ouch there. Supply production, AA efficiency, repair rate. I just don't know about that. I'm just uncomfortable with not having 1,600 plus manpower at the moment. And before, if you are thinking the SA event may be the problem, all it did was take away 400 manpower at the beginning, returned, I think it's what, 360 or something after that. But during the SA's time, and there's no lowering of manpower recruitment via the SA, and there's actually minor events that help the manpower recruiting. So ultimately, I think you end up having slightly more manpower, and definitely it's just 30 or 40 less, and you get all those extra units. So it's not really that's changing that. So I don't know if there's other balance issues on it, or if it's just, which is very possibly the case, of me building a lot more units early on. Heavy bomber or heavier transports. Got a couple of transport aircraft though. Getting that out of the mix. And no one's going to man that. Okay. Make sure we have enough paratrooper left to go to Norway. Okay, 11. Toten Kostandart, that's good. Work Zeitung, work newspaper for one of the factories of the Reich Göring. This one's near Linz. Just the various publications that are promoting up the National Socialist production. Okay. I don't know if there's a downside to this, so we're going to go create a new zone. Sure. Naval bomber prototypes have advanced. That is good. Maybe we'll switch that over to flying boat types. I'm going to be set for later in 40 to theoretically transport landing craft and Schnell boats via or somewhat disassembled via rails to a Mediterranean port, so that we can operate fast down there. I think that's a very reasonable thing to do. So we're leaving that in our production queue, or production deployment queue. I'm not putting it in, and I'm hoping that these 4 here will be enough to carry a sufficient landing force up into. Now, what's their current range? 2,000 kilometers. Not quite sure how far that up is, but I'm an American. I have only a vague idea of kilometers. I think that, and I sort of think, it's about 1,000 miles. Okay, infantry anti-tank weapons, great. And now we can research improvements in other areas like here and here. So we're going to do basic infantry. Okay, I think that's going to be an end of the episode. As you can see, Japan is just pushing deeper and deeper into here. Oh, they're at the border there. So, of the capital. Golmud. I don't know much about Golmud. Don't know that anybody knows. Even the people who live there probably don't know much about Golmud. Oh well. Okay, thanks for viewing. Please like the videos. Please post comments. I'd like to hear what you're thinking. My current plan is, next episode, we're starting the war. Maybe not at the very start of the episode, but that's what the plan is. I've got my covertly based submarines in the Mediterranean, and out here in the Indian Ocean, so that they can start operating there. We'll need to launch some of these units out into the Atlantic before the war actually starts. So thanks so much for watching. Again, thank you. Have a good day.